Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
This time we just go around the room and introduce ourselves. Let us know so we can welcome you. I'm Grisha.
I'm George. I'm David.
My name is Cass.
I'm Jack.
Larry. Jeff. I'm AJ.
I'm Clint. I'm John.
I'm Tim.
Fred.
I'm David. Tom.
Silas.
I'm Kay.
My name is Michael.
Robert.
My name is David.
Al. Peter.
Michael. I'm Hal.
Joe.
I'm Jim.
I'm Richard.
Jay.
Baruch.
John.
All right, welcome everyone. So I'd like to introduce our teacher for today, Jon Bernie. He's a contemporary spiritual teacher focused on the unfolding of natural wakefulness, the already enlightened basic state that lies at the core of human experience. He has 4 decades of practice and study in the contemplative traditions of Soto Zen, Theravada insight meditation, and Advaita Vedanta. In addition to his work as a spiritual teacher, Jon is also an experienced healer and teacher of somatic embodiment via his extensive training in the Alexander technique, Qigong system of Dr. MCU, and the zero balancing system of Dr. Fritz Smith. He has been in private practice since 1981. Jon leads classes, intensives, and retreats in the San Francisco Bay Area and nationally.
Thank you. Good morning. Nice to be back. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
How many of you guys have a regular meditation or sitting practice? Just curious. A lot of you guys. Yeah. Feels like it. I can feel it. It's nice. Do you have regular retreats here or groups? Mm-hmm.
Once a year, a retreat.
Once a year a retreat?
Mm-hmm.
You do it here?
No, in Santa Cruz Mountains.
Oh, nice. Where? Which location? Oh, Vajrapani, sure. I'd like to start talking a little bit about what the Buddha really meant when he talked about the middle way. What was that? And the way I see it, and I think it's very helpful for many people these days, is it's really a description of the interface between, you might say, relative reality and absolute reality. The interface between the personal and the realm of the non-personal. In being a human being and a spiritual being merged simultaneously, in that merging, that balance place is the midway. Obviously, when one is imbalanced, they're either too much on one side or the other. Trying to be spiritual or just only self-centered in materialism, in the sort of personal existence, survival, comfort, good things, but or there's the denial of that. You know, the ascetic practices that he sort of rejected, personal denial and can't remember what they're called. Something. My brain is a little slow this morning. But when you grasp, or not grasp, when you taste or glimpse this realm of the sort of Buddha mind, the realm of freedom, of course it tastes so delicious. It's so beautiful, it feels so good that naturally you want more of that. You actually want to have that as much as possible. There's a great longing for the truth, is what it means. That's the truth isn't some teaching or belief or words or concepts. It's really a description of that shift into being free of identifying with the personal self as who one is. And yet, at the same time, one can live an ordinary life. That's why in the Zen ox herding pictures, if you're familiar with those, the monk or the aspirant goes off and goes to the top of the mountain and eventually comes back to the marketplace, returns back to ordinary life. Now it's true that some people's path, for either certain periods of their life or even their whole life, could be a monastic or a reclusive or a hermit type of practice. And I get that. I did that for many years. And I know the value of it. I know people who still live that way full time. And that's really their lifestyle. But most of us, live in the world, have jobs, relationships, and so forth. And so how do we find that balance? How do we tune in such a way that we promote healing, transformation, and liberation, and at the same time be able to have relationships, work, and live our life, whatever our life presents to us. So that's really the focus that I have in my work and my background as a healer for a long time and in private practice since 81 as well, working with people on my own self as well, doing many, countless retreats and training with all kinds of people and really finding out, how does this really work? How is it really functional and practical for each and every one of us? How can we each and every one of us really tune in such a way that we can find our way, rather than to follow someone else's way? I mean, that's okay to have input and guidance and feedback, certainly, if it's facilitates one's own autonomy in discovering the path, rather than holding on to beliefs about what it is or how it should be or how it's going to show up or what it's going to look like. So that the first step, and that's why the Buddha, the basic training really was mindfulness meditation. That was the first teaching, to become aware of sensations, feelings, thoughts, breath. Sort of next level was more like Zen, where there's just direct perception, opening into awareness, suchness. And where at that realm, there really is a dropping away of the projection of the mind onto reality. The projection of one's personal story or unconscious psychodynamics onto others or onto situations, where there's a direct experience of life, where the self drops away, at least for a second. And if you look at your experiences, the so-called, what do they call them? I think my memory is going completely. Oh well, can't think of it. Sorry. I think moments of great joy and great awe really are when there's an absence of your personal self who's judging and comparing and analyzing and making conclusions. So, as you probably know, being students of Buddhism, that, the Eightfold Path, there's suffering, there's a cause of suffering. Greed, hate, and delusion. Or I like to say, grasping, pushing away, and trying to figure out. And if you look in your meditation, I'm sure you've noticed this as you've tuned in and really become more sensitive in your body and how you're feeling, that when you really are in your body, when you're not in your head, when you come out of your head, when you direct yourself, okay, come on, let's come back to my breath. Feel what's going on in my body. What am I actually feeling right now? Am I relaxed? Am I anxious? Am I irritated? Am I judging? What's going on? Just to come in, do I want something? And if you notice wanting, I really want something, longing for something, that you'll feel with that, you'll feel that contraction in your nervous system of wanting. Or maybe you're aware of something you don't want, something that you have an aversion to. And if you look carefully, if you really sense deeply, you'll notice that it's exactly the same contraction. That wanting and not wanting are the same thing. They're both struggling with what is. Struggling with what is another way of saying suffering. That's what suffering is. Struggling with what is. That's why acceptance is one of the great teachings. But we take that and think, I have to accept my depressing situation or whatever. No, it's not a psychological acceptance, really. It's really a description of the pure awareness of our true self, which is accepting, which is compassionate, which is loving, which is open and receptive and giving and receiving simultaneously. When we're caught in being someone, we're trying to get something, we're trying to get rid of something, we're trying to be somebody, we're looking for approval, avoiding rejection, all those kinds of things. But when we're just here, and there's no one trying to be here, when there's just here-ness, then there's peace. There's silence, there's stillness, effortless being. And you've all tasted this. It's not a belief, it's not something you can hold on to, but as you become more and more aware of it, you find out how it's literally the guiding light of life. It really is a kind of creative force of life, a creative intelligence, really. It is what you are. It is what everything is. And so there's often the sense of feeling unified or connected. Now, as you open into that, often what can come up physically or emotionally is a sense of vulnerability or feeling scared or threatened or doubtful, can bring up personal insecurities, naturally. But as good meditators, you begin to trust whatever's coming up, whether it's fear, whether it's anger, whether it's longing, desire, sadness, pleasure, joy, whatever. It's just all a moving flow of life. And then you come back to the still point. You come back to this place where your mind and your body drop away. And there's just presence. There is listening without anyone listening. There's looking without someone seeing. So there's no grasping in experience. There's the end of the experiencer. This is tricky to talk about because language is so much is relative. It's completely relative. Even though it can speak from the absolute, if you try to understand what I'm talking about, notice that struggle to want to understand. And let go of it. What if you knew that you didn't have to understand anything? That wasn't a requirement. In fact, it can be an obstacle. Because really, as you get deeper into this, really the reality is that you don't know anything. And that's a relief. Because one of the most insidious forms of suffering is to want to know, is to want to understand, is want to make sense of, let's face it, an unknowable reality of life. Right? I mean, we don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. We just don't. We may not want to admit that. But, come on. It doesn't take long. Just go outside and look at the stars if you can get somewhere where you can see them. And stare up and go, what's going on? What is an infinite universe? Our minds cannot comprehend. If we had to run this body for 1 second, it would be finished instantly. How is this life happening? It's a mystery. And for the most part, we take it for granted. We don't think about it. And yet, if you want to become free, that's the greatest thing you can discover, is that it's a mystery. You don't have, not only do you not have to figure it out, you absolutely cannot. So you can let go of figuring it out. You can let go of all your beliefs, everything you've been taught, and you can just arrive right here. That's what the Buddha was teaching. Was he really teaching Buddhism, or was he teaching just to be here, 100%? Find out how to be here without being a seeker, without being somebody caught up in the identity of being a seeker. That's the tricky part. That where you begin to trust that this vast beingness that we truly are is what you are, whether you're aware of it or not right now. It isn't about believing that. It's about exploring it and finding out whether that's true for you, or find out how it's true for you. Because everyone has built in the guidance system to become free. So how do you access that? Most people, for the most part, have learned to turn it off or completely not be aware of it. We didn't have examples of it. We didn't have mentors for it. In fact, the opposite. Many people have learned to shut down feeling or to repress, or, you guys know that. My mother taught me to trust my feelings. She eventually regretted that. So when I realized I was gay, it was a gradual realization from around, 11, 10, I don't know, somewhere 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th, 7th, something like that, 8th, it became obvious. I trusted my feelings, and I, in 1969, when I was 16, I've said this before here, but I'll say it again, some of you haven't met me before. I marched on Polk Street here in the city for gay liberation with 100 other people. And the following year, that march became the Gay Freedom Parade. And I had been out on the streets already, protesting the war in Vietnam, and I wasn't going to go. I was activist, young activist. But I trusted my feelings. That was a great gift that she gave me. And so when I started having spiritual experience, which I did around that age, I had an awakening. I didn't know it. I was not religious. I was actually anti-religious. I rejected it as brainwashing. And I thought, well, when I have some kind of experience, I'll believe it or whatever. So I ended up having one. I was going to go to Stanford Medical School, and I ended up becoming a Buddhist monk. So I had an awakening that changed my whole life. Like, what the hell? What's this? It got my attention, that's for sure. And I didn't find out what it was for another 4 years until I met someone who knew what it was and told me. Ann Armstrong, wonderful mentor at the time. Anyway. So, trusting your feelings. Well, you have to be able to feel it first. And that's why sitting and having a practice like you do is great training. Where you tune in and just listen. Not like you're trying to have a good experience. People say, oh, I can't meditate. I sit down and my mind wanders constantly and I'm just really distracted, or I'm sleeping and I'm not having a good meditation. I said, you can't judge meditation. You're not allowed to judge. You don't know. You don't actually know that. Yeah, you didn't like it, or you wanted to have a pleasurable, blissful, kind of calm, groovy, feeling. Yeah, well, who doesn't? Of course. But how do you know that falling asleep in your meditation or having your mind spinning all over the place isn't part of your healing and transformation? So people control themselves. They try to control their bodies or their minds, and they put all these restrictions on themselves. Forget that. Relax. Find out what your body wants. Find out what your heart wants, and listen. Listen to that sadness, that longing, that need for tenderness, that need for affection, that need for love, or whatever is there. I think what we need more than anything, believe it or not, in spiritual transformation, is permission to be human. Permission to have all the feelings you have, all the thoughts you have, all of it. Permission to be fully human, because that's what really will transform you. There is no spiritual work to be done. The spirit is perfect. Your essential nature is perfect. It doesn't need anything. It is already free. If you understand how to do human work, you'll become free. You will realize your true nature. It's a done deal. It's like gravity. You throw a ball out the window, it's going to go down on the ground. It's just natural. It's a natural force. So we learn how to let it work. We learn how to get out of the way. That's what spiritual practice really is learning how to get out of the way, learning how we're in the way. That's the key. We can't actually get out of the way. It's a habit. What did Mark Twain say? You can't throw a habit out the window. You have to coax it down the stairs one step at a time. Can't even do that, I don't think. You say you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it. You can't even lead a horse to water. No. This is really letting go. We want to let go, and yet we're terrified of it. We want to be free, and yet it is the thing that scares us the most. Because when we're free, there's the end of a kind of survival security. That's why people learn to sit and be grounded, so that you can handle this kind of opening that happens that can be quite intense. It's very helpful to work with your breath, to work with your bodies and awareness, just to help clear your channels, to get your meridians opened up, get your chi flowing through your whole body. You know, really becoming vibrantly alive, which is what we're meant to be. Regardless of your condition or age or health or any of that. You can still be vibrantly alive, even if you're dying. I'll never forget my mom, when she was dying, what an attitude. She had a great attitude. I said, Mom, how are you doing today, Mom? She said, I think I'm on the mend. She'd make nice on me, you know. I'd be crying because I knew I was losing her. She'd make nice on me, comfort me. We've got to comfort ourselves. We need. I meet people who've never been comforted. Their parents didn't touch them even, didn't kiss them, didn't hug them. We need touch. And even particularly, if we have been alone or haven't found someone to be a partner with, it can be very lonely and very painful. I went through many years of my life alone. Most of them. Actually. Yeah, I'd had relationships here and there, I didn't. I'm in a relationship now, I'm married now, I'm lucky. I gave up. I totally fucking gave up. I thought, look, I'm 63, but at the time I was 58, and I thought, okay, look, I'm gay, I'm bald, I'm 58, forget it. It's over. I was wrong. How great to be wrong. That's what I mean. Don't believe anything. Notice what you believe and then go, is it true? Is it really true? And feel that while it feels right, well, that's why we believe things, because they feel right. But if the feeling shifts, if you allow energy of feeling to move and you're just clear, then you realize you don't know. It's a pleasure to not know. We're working on a new book, and I came up with a title, which we're not going to use, but some people really like it, which is, God, the all-not-knowing. Get in big trouble with that. We're not, that's not Actually, we did come up with a title that I really loved, and then we found out it's a title of somebody who had a harrowing escape from Scientology. So we can't use that title either. That one's beyond belief. I like that one a lot. But, oh well. We squeezed it into the rest of the title, so it's a longer title now. Excuse me. I'm interested in what works, period. I don't have any beliefs. I've never been a believer and I've never been a follower. Even though I've had a bunch of teachers and some of them really famous, I had no interest in them. I was dragged to those people. People say, oh, you have to go see somebody. I go, I don't want to see anybody. I could care less about these guys. I had no interest. I was very stubborn and independent. But I lucked out because I met people who were awake, who were embodying awakeness. They weren't just giving some platitude or dogma. They didn't have to say anything. They were resonating a frequency that if you weren't in the way, you'd feel something. You'd feel some presence. And I just zeroed in on that, just like a good musician. I tuned my violin to that. I tuned my instrument to that frequency. And that's the direct path of teaching, what we call transmission. That's a lot of the work that I had as a student, and that's the work that I do in my work, mostly. And what follows that is a lot of healing, emotional healing. A lot of shifts can happen because it's powerful energy. The essence of energy is our life force. How long was... I have no idea how long I'm allowed to talk.
We have 20 more minutes, or 16 more minutes.
That's it?
Before we,
Does that, and then there's going to then questions and answers?
Can we do Q&A stops
In 16?
at 10 up? Yeah.
Okay. Somebody raise their hand on it so I can stop. Shut up. Be quiet. We want to ask questions now. Oh, no, not yet. Not yet. I'm going to jabber a little longer.
What time do you want us to stop?
11:50. Well, that's what the script says.
11:50. Just go. Somebody just go.
But we have questions.
And then I'll know I should.
But if you want to have questions, we should start when we end everything at 11:50.
Oh.
So,
Okay. Then I should stop pretty soon. Okay, I'll wrap it up here and then we can open it up. That's probably enough to get some questions going anyway. You know, we all have our own language that we speak, really, even though we may apparently speak the same language, like English, but actually everyone has their own set of meanings. So I don't know if what I'm communicating is conveying the meaning that I'm intending. So we have a dialogue to look at that. I often say there are no teachers. There are only good students. I'm a student. I'm learning constantly. And it's wonderful. Well, I'm learning new things all the time. And when you're in the moment, when you're really fully here, every moment is actually new. Completely. Even though I've apparently seen you before, I've never seen you before. This is the first time. Because when we see each other for the first time, there's an intimacy of connection. That's where there's no one in the way. So there's a closeness. And you begin to have this close, vibrant relationship with life. That's why falling in love is so great, or going into nature, or seeing beautiful sunsets. It's just, you let go of yourself. You have moments of being selfless. When you're selfless, you are giving 100% and receiving 100% simultaneously. So that's the joy of freedom. And that's the path we're all on. So I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for listening. And I guess we have some time for some questions now. Did you want to start?
Well, it occurred to me that what you're describing leads to us to the end of certainty, so that you know
The end of a certain kind of certainty.
Yes, the kind of certainty where you think you know all the answers.
Yeah, of course.
And it's terribly uncomfortable.
Terribly what?
Uncomfortable
Can be, yeah.
for a lot of people.
Sure.
But I think in a state of confusion, one often finds better answers than if you think you know.
I agree, and that's why I recommend a great practice is to sit with the question. Is to, when you actually can bring whatever your question is, or whatever your statement is, or whatever your demand is. It could be any of those. Not just a question, it could be any of those. Whatever the truth of your condition is, that if you can sit with that, when am I going to be free? How long do I have to keep doing this? How many lifetimes, how many more, whatever. That if you can just put that out there and be the space of the true listening, something can transform. So when people come up and work with me, when I'm doing groups or privately and retreats and so forth, we're not doing problem solving or career counseling. or even therapy in that sense, but really more allowing someone to find a way to put their cards on the table and really just say, this is really the truth of my condition, without any judgment, without any comparisons, without what does this mean? And that has a magical power to it. Absolutely amazing. I'm amazed by it constantly in people. I get feedback all the time about how their lives are profoundly changing. And we're not doing it. How beautiful is that? So you give the question into the space and then sit with it. That's where they say the answer's in the question. That's what that means. It's not like it's some riddle that you then have to sort of Rubik cube it. Thank you, that's great. Appreciate it. So being able to know, wow, I really am uncomfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable not knowing. I want to know. For some people, knowing is the big thing. That can be it could be the essence of one's identity, ego identity. Wanting to know, for instance. It's not everybody's dynamic, but it's a lot of people's. Yeah.
I really, really liked your definition of the middle way.
Of what?
Of the middle way.
Thank you.
And being, the interface between the relative and the absolute. And that, while we're trying to incarnate as human beings, right, and work out our predicaments, we also, everybody here is trying to reach for some understanding of the greater context, and keep that in mind so we don't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And try and have compassion and wisdom and things like that. And
when we're in that presence, when we're really fully in that presence, that's a realm of complete meaning of life. Mm-hmm. Life has meaning without any thought, without knowing anything. It naturally is meaningful. Mm-hmm. Even if you drop dead that second, your life was worth it. Mm-hmm. Then you're really hit gold. Mm-hmm. And actually, there is no one who knows they got enlightened. Mm-hmm. That's not possible.
There's nobody there.
No,
right?
It's not. That's actually an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Someone who gets enlightened. The only one who wants to get enlightened is ego. Unfortunately, it doesn't. But it benefits, because then it doesn't have to hold up the weight anymore.
Right.
Then it's just this crazy little personality that we all have, sort of likable, unlikable, sort of irritating or whatever, cute, whatever version you particularly have, or a combination. We all have combinations, but yeah. Yes.
I just have a question. If I hear repeatedly, and it makes sense to me, that personality is ego. For someone who is beyond ego, is there any distinguishing characteristics about that person from other people who are beyond ego?
No, there's an infinite range. I think we have there's a lot of beliefs, they're sort of spiritual identity beliefs. Someone who is free of ego is going to be, this is how they're going to look, this is how they're going to behave, this is how they're going to speak. Maybe. But, I've seen just about I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's a limiting belief.
What's the limiting belief?
That even though someone's not identified in a particular ego structure, they can still have an ego structure, they're just not identified in it. Now the problem, a lot of times when people have huge spiritual shifts, is that they haven't integrated their human side. So they have a lot of dark stuff that hasn't been processed. And that's where you get all the bad behavior. I have a number of students that I work with now and over the years who were really traumatized by very abusive, powerful teachers. Because power is seductive, just like money and all of it, fame. It's all it's very seductive. But just because somebody has spiritual power doesn't mean you can trust them. No way.
Well, I'm experienced that personally. So.
You have, yes. Well, I'm sorry. I know. I mean, it can be extremely, because we're innocent. We're sort of like we want someone to help us. We want to trust someone, and it's very painful to learn that lesson. Very painful. But it's amazing. I keep working with people even to this day who are having those situations, coming out of those situations. So that's why if you trust yourself, you'll start to get a good nose for smelling what isn't good and staying away and going towards what is, trusting. You'll begin to trust more and more what's helping you. And I really focus on what I said earlier, what works. And for me, what works is brings you more into the presence, brings you more into this openness. What allows, that's what's working. And whatever's pulling you in and contracting you, that isn't working. The only thing I want to say about that, one thing, is that sometimes part of the healing process is to go into contraction. So it's not that you're avoiding contraction or avoiding so-called negative feelings. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But that's different than a sort of intuitive, protective dynamic that lets you know which way to go. But we learn by making mistakes. We learn that we have to experiment and find out rather than, well, I don't want to get it wrong. I want to make sure I'm doing it right. Well, whatever, get it wrong, find out. Keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep being creative in your practice, in your discovery. Utilize whatever tools you think might help you. Therapeutic tools, meditative tools, practices, whatever. There's tons of things. So many things that can be helpful. Please. Oh, hi. Sorry.
Hi. I have a question about letting go of views and beliefs.
Letting go of beliefs?
Beliefs and views.
And views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, it's like, I'm just interested in hearing a description about what it's like we always have some views and beliefs.
Sure.
Right?
Of course, I say it's fine to have beliefs as long as you don't believe them. It's like a map. I mean, you can have a map and go, wow, and they can be essential. Beliefs can be essential. I think having a belief or even a hope, there's a very positive side of belief. I'm not trashing belief at all. I just think there's a point in when you're ready to have experience that beliefs are in the way. So you have a map, it gets you to the territory, then you're in the territory. Well, maybe the map occasionally helps you get oriented. Well, let's see, am I here? But eventually, on this path, part of the way it works is you have to be willing to not know where you are, not know where you've been or where you're going. See, I ask this question often, what's the difference between the future, the past, and the present? And the answer is there's no difference because they're all the same thing. They're all thought. And reality is free of thought. Reality is free of belief. It's not that you get rid of beliefs and then you're in reality. But the realm of reality, the realm of pure presence, has no projection in it. There's no one projecting. There's no one thinking. There's no one analyzing. No one comparing. There's no one. That's why it's called, absence of self, of emptiness. No self. That's what the non-dual. That's what Advaita, when he said Advaita, that's all the non-dual teachers. It's all the same stuff. Zen, it's all the same. It's just repackaging. That's what they're describing when there isn't subject object anymore. The end of you and me. Then there's connection. And that's what we are. That's really what the teaching is. That's the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha all in one. That's the triple treasure. Is that connectedness. Yeah.
Well, can I...
What? Yeah.
So the views and beliefs are present. So can you use, as far as doing the practice, when you are aware that you have attachment to a particular view or belief, then that's where you need to let go, even though
that's where that's where you put attention, because we don't really let go. Letting go happens by itself. We bring awareness to holding, and when it's ready in its own way, it lets go. If we think we're letting go, we think we're doing it. As long as we think we're responsible and we're doing it, we're in the way. And because we're such doers, because we're such accomplishers, because we live in a society that's so competitive and success-oriented and surface-oriented, that's a really hard one to let go of. You know, I mean, I jokingly tell people, and it's true too, I used to make type A look catatonic. You know, I was ultimate spiritual achiever, just like a lot of people. I mean, I totally, you know, I had all kinds of beliefs about it. And every one had to get blown away. Every one. Every rug got pulled out. So, no, but beliefs, yeah, we have functional beliefs. They're either functional or they're not functional. You want to see if they're in the way. If they're in the way, if you can see that there's a belief in the way, then drop into the body, notice what you're feeling, and then let it be. Maybe it's going to move, maybe it isn't. I mean, that's what, the other really important, essential ingredient, of course, is infinite patience. And we're not patient. We want instant internet. We want instant answers. We want what we want now. That's the way we are here. Right? Okay, I get it. That's a part of us that I think is fine. And in this realm, don't work. Doesn't work. We have to be willing to suffer. That's compassion. To fully experience what we're experiencing. Not to be, am I ending? Or no? No. Okay. Not to be, I'm not talking, what?
I'm scratching my head.
Oh, okay. Not to be, there's a difference between being sort of emotionally dramatic or something where it's not really you may be emotional, but it's not really allowing the energy of emotion to move. Allowing the energy of emotion to move is very different than just sort of being really emotional. That's what I'm talking about. It may benefit from expression, it may benefit from certain practices to allow that, but it's different than being sort of wallowing in feeling. Very different than allowing the energy just to move. It's an energy. It's just like a river. Whatever that is, it's just a pain that has to get through your system, whether it's fear, grief, anger, rage, whatever. So.
We should begin to wrap up.
Almost done? Oh, yeah, okay. Can I make, when do I make a couple of announcements at the end? Now? You know, I forgot, usually I bring materials or some stuff so you guys, and I completely forgot, I'm sorry. But if you're interested in, I'll just tell you a couple of things. One, I have a website you can check out, and there's all kinds of stuff there, johnbernie.org. And I have a Monday night group, couple of Mondays a month in the Quaker Center here in the city, on 9th Street between Mission and Market. You're welcome anytime. It's free. There's a $10 donation asked for, but you don't have to, And also I'm leading a day-long intensive in Sebastopol, June 4th, Saturday. That's a wonderful location, beautiful place. So if you're interested, you could go on the website and check it out. And again, thank you so much. It's really good to see you guys and to be with you. And I just wish you the deep, profound trust that is within you to find your way, because I know you will. And along the way, happy trails. You're welcome.
So we just take some time here to make announcements, introduce the host, Cass.
Hi, Jan Cass. I'm today's sugar pusher. So stay and enjoy the fellowship of the Sangha. The vegan treats to avail yourself of. There's hot water for tea, if you like, and just leave the cups in the sink, and we'll take care of washing them. I'll be going around with the Donna bowl suggested donation, $10 is the latest figure, to help us meet the expenses of renting this place and the other good works that the Sangha engages in. There's a sign-up sheet on the credenza if anybody wants to get added to the mailing list. And some people gather at 12:30 at the front door to go out to have lunch, and anybody's welcome to join in.
Any other announcements?
I'm co-teaching with Irina Weissman and J.D. Doyle and Suzanne Pega. We're doing a day-long at Spirit Rock Meditation Center on May 7th. And the day-long is looking at white privilege and the intersection of how we could use Dharma to support working with that. So if you're interested, I put some flyers on the table and I would invite you to come.
This afternoon at 4 o'clock at the Unitarian Church on Franklin and Curie, the San Francisco Choral Society is presenting Honegger's King David. It's a unusual sort of modernist piece from the 20s. He was one of 6 composers famous in France, and it is unlike anything we've ever done. It's brutally hard. It's only a little more than an hour, and there's a narrator and the story of King David and his ups and downs and very bad behavior, and it's quite interesting. It's not all pretty, but some of it is very stirring, and parts of it are gorgeous. So it's not in my taste, but I still can recommend it if you find yourself on this beautiful day with nothing to do it for. It'll be a good time.
Thank you. That's about it. Any more announcements? Okay. We should just gather for there. Oh, I forgot to read. I'll do it quickly while you stand up. Next week, May 1st, Dorothy Hunt serves as spiritual director of Moon Mountain Sangha, teaching at the request of Adyashanti. She has practiced psychotherapy since 1967, is the founder of the San Francisco Center for Meditation and Psychotherapy. Self-inquiry is taught by Rama Maharashi, led to the first series of awakenings and meeting. She was invited beyond identifications with either her absolute or the relative. Dorothy is the author of Only This, and leaves from Moon Mountain, a contributing author to The Sacred Mirror, Listening from the Heart of Silence, and the online journal Undivided. She is a featured speaker, spiritual teacher in the book Ordinary Women, Extraordinary Wisdom. Dorothy offers satsang retreats and private meetings in the Bay Area and elsewhere. So she'll be here next week. Come along.
By the power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow, and may all live in equanimity, without too much attachment or too much aversion, believing in the equality of all.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.